That evening, just like countless evenings before, Musbar bought several chickens that had already been tied up and prepared everything for the next morning, when she would slaughter them and cook chicken porridge. There was absolutely nothing to suggest that this ordinary night would become a fateful turning point that would overturn her entire life. She had been selling chicken porridge for more than a year and a half. Her customers had become accustomed to the rich flavor of her porridge. One satisfied customer recommended another, and before long the name, Musbar Chicken Porridge, became well known. Gradually, no one even remembered her real name, HTN. Every morning, precisely at 3 o'clock, she would rise from bed, slaughter several unfortunate chickens, light the fire, simmer the porridge, then carry the heavy pots on a shoulder pole to VN Market in TG, where she sold her food. Many people warned her that making a living through killing animals was not good and would create heavy karma. When she was younger, she had often visited temples. She had taken refuge in the Three Jewels, learned to chant sutras and mantras, and had long heard the Buddhist teachings on cause and effect. She knew very well that killing living beings would eventually bring painful consequences. But she ignored those warnings. If I don't do this work, she thought, what else can I do to feed my children? She had already endured 7 marriages. She had devoted herself wholeheartedly to each husband, cooking, cleaning, serving, and caring for every household. Yet one after another, each husband eventually left her behind, leaving her alone to struggle while raising her children. Those were years of war and hardship. Making a living was incredibly difficult. She had done everything from trading goods on the black market to selling chicken porridge at VN Market. None of it was easy. People often warned her that one day she would suffer karmic retribution. She would simply smile. Whether karmic retribution comes later, I don't know, she would say. But if I stop working now, my whole family will starve. After finishing all her preparations, she went into her room and quickly fell asleep. Perhaps she had done this work for so long that it had become deeply rooted in her subconscious, because even in her dreams she found herself doing the same thing. She dreamed that she took out one of the chickens she had prepared that evening and was about to slit its throat. The chicken struggled for a few moments. Then something astonishing happened. Its body began to swell larger and larger until it transformed into a man. Startled, she exclaimed, "How did you become a human? If that's the case, how can I dip you into boiling water?" The chicken, now appearing as a man, answered,
"You're doomed. Don't pour boiling water on me. I am your grandfather."
She replied, "I don't believe you. My grandfather didn't look anything like you." He answered,
"How could I possibly look the same? When I was alive, I killed countless living beings. After I died, my descendants slaughtered pigs, cattle, chickens, and ducks for my funeral ceremonies. Because of those actions, I have been reborn as animals for countless lifetimes, repaying karmic debts that are still unfinished. Having changed bodies through so many rebirths, how could I still resemble the man you once knew? Fortunately, many lifetimes ago I cultivated a small amount of merit and performed some wholesome deeds. Because of that, the King of Hell has permitted me to return in this dream to warn my descendants. You must practice diligently. Do not continue killing living beings. Otherwise, you too will fall into hell and be reborn as animals just as I have. The suffering is beyond words."
Still unconvinced, she asked, "If that's true, then tell me your name." He replied,
"My name is HVV. Your father is HVT, and you are HTN. Do you believe me now?"
She answered, "Everything you said is true. But seeing your appearance, I still find it hard to believe." He gently said,
"Stop doubting. Practice sincerely and you will understand for yourself. Your sins are extremely heavy. It is not only the chickens and ducks you have killed. Every insect, cricket, ant, mouse, beetle, snake, and poisonous creature that you have harmed has also become part of your karmic burden. Please cultivate diligently, and dedicate your practice to help liberate me as well."
Suddenly, the alarm clock rang loudly. Musbar awoke with a start. The dream had been terrifying, not merely because of its strange images, but because everything in it matched exactly what she had learned long ago about karma, rebirth, and retribution. Could it really be true? She sat there in silence for a long time, lost in thought. At last, she made a decision. She would not kill that chicken. Not only that, she sold all of her slaughtering equipment. On the 17th day of the 11th lunar month in the year of the goat, 1955, which happened to be Amitabha Buddha's commemorative day, Ms. Ba officially gave up selling chicken porridge after 18 months in the trade. After all, if she no longer did this work, there were still many other honest ways to earn a living. In truth, finding work that did not create harmful karma was not as difficult as she had imagined. Little by little, her life became more stable. From that point onward, Ms. Ba sincerely sought refuge in the Buddha's teachings and began practicing Buddhism with genuine dedication. The monks carefully explained to her the principles of karmic cause and effect, how karma could be transformed, and what true spiritual cultivation meant. She gradually adopted a permanent vegetarian diet and devoted herself every day to reciting the Buddha's name, praying that the heavy karma she had accumulated over the years might gradually be purified. Knowing how grave her karma was, she feared having to repay it over countless future lifetimes, never knowing where she might be reborn. Therefore, she made an extraordinary vow. She prayed that all of her karmic retribution might be gathered together and ripen within this very lifetime. Even if the suffering came fiercely and all at once, she would rather endure it now than continue paying it off over countless future rebirths. She simply made this vow, not knowing how the law of cause and effect would ultimately unfold. Later, she obtained Buddhist scriptures and began reading and chanting them regularly. At first, she studied shorter scriptures such as the Amitabha Sutra, the Universal Gate Chapter, and the Great Compassion Mantra together with the 10 short mantras. As time passed, she progressed to longer scriptures, including the Ksitigarbha Sutra and the Lotus Sutra. 7 years passed. Throughout those years she lived as a devoted lay Buddhist. She no longer killed living beings as she once had. Her body and mind became lighter. Her heart became calmer and more peaceful than ever before. She believed her life would continue quietly like this until old age. But suddenly, a completely unimaginable event occurred, something that no one, no matter how vivid their imagination, could ever have foreseen. It was 6 p.m. on the 23rd day of the 4th lunar month in the year of the tiger, May 26, 1962. As usual, Ms. Ba was quietly reciting the Buddha's name. Without warning, a gigantic dark-skinned deity suddenly appeared before her. His appearance was extraordinary. His head and abdomen were unnaturally large, making his figure seem almost grotesque. Yet despite his unusual appearance, he radiated an overwhelming dignity and authority befitting a divine official carrying out heavenly duties. Terrified, Ms. Ba screamed. Immediately afterward, she collapsed unconscious. When she looked again, she was horrified to discover that her soul had already separated from her body. Her children and neighbors quickly gathered around her lifeless body. Some rubbed her hands, others massaged her legs, some cried while shaking her, desperately trying to wake her. But nothing worked. She had stopped breathing. Her spirit stood only a short distance away, watching everything unfold. She tried to speak to everyone. No one could hear her. Realizing that she had truly died, an overwhelming sadness filled her heart. Her life had ended so soon. She had only practiced Buddhism for a few short years. Had her karmic debts truly been repaid? She did not know. Unsure what else to do, she followed the habit she had cultivated every day while alive. She began reciting the Buddha's name. By then several more divine beings had appeared. They seemed to be messengers sent by the King of Hell to escort departed souls. When they heard her sincerely reciting the Buddha's name, their stern expressions softened. Their attitude became noticeably more gentle and friendly. Without delay, they lifted her high into the sky. Flying swiftly southward, they passed over villages, cities, and eventually a vast ocean. The icy winds blowing across the sea pierced her entire body with bitter cold. They finally stopped before an immense mountain. The divine messengers called it Iron Ring Mountain. The name sounded strangely familiar. She remembered that it had been mentioned in the Ksitigarbha Sutra. The mountain towered unimaginably high above the surrounding sea. Its summit was blanketed in white snow. Everything was shrouded in dim grey mist. Although it was not completely dark, only a faint, hazy light filtered through the cold air. The entire place radiated overwhelming solemnity and severity. Anyone arriving there for the first time would immediately feel as though an invisible force were pressing heavily upon both body and mind. The divine messengers escorted Musbar to a massive stone gate. One of them struck the gate 3 times. Without anyone touching it, the enormous gate slowly opened by itself. They continued deep inside the mountain. As they walked, she heard one of the divine officials say,
"The Bodhisattva has arrived."
Moments later, an awe-inspiring scene unfolded before her eyes. Magnificent palaces stretched endlessly before her. Gigantic stone pillars, carved with exquisite detail, rose majestically toward the sky. Brilliant rays of light illuminated the entire area. At the center stood 2 towering platforms. Upon them sat 2 glorious bodhisattvas whose radiant light was both breathtakingly beautiful and profoundly majestic. They were none other than Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva and Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, the very bodhisattvas she had bowed to countless times while living in the human world. Overjoyed, Musbar hurried forward, intending to prostrate herself before them. But she failed to notice what stood behind the 2 bodhisattvas. An enormous flock of chickens and ducks was already waiting there. The moment she approached, they rushed forward and blocked her path. Although they were chickens and ducks, they were unimaginably huge. Each one was as large as a young calf. Even more astonishing, they spoke with human voices. One of them stepped forward and declared,
"We have waited for you from the 10th month of the year of the ox until the 4th month of the year of the tiger. We heard from King Qinguang of the first court that you had taken refuge in the Buddha's teachings and begun cultivating yourself. But in the past, relying on your strength, you slaughtered us without mercy. You slit our throats, plucked our feathers, butchered our bodies, and tore apart our flesh to enrich yourself, showing not the slightest compassion for weak and defenseless creatures. Now that you have come here, we will tear your body apart to revenge ourselves."
The giant chicken had scarcely finished speaking when the entire flock, more than 1,000 enormous chickens and ducks, surged toward her like a raging flood, burning with fury. They pecked at her, they trampled her, they clawed and tore at her. It was not one attack after another, but a relentless barrage, like a violent rainstorm falling without pause. In an instant, Musbar's entire body was ripped apart. Flesh and blood were scattered everywhere. The agony was beyond anything words could describe. She wanted to scream, but she could not even find a single moment to cry out. Sharp beaks, powerful claws, and heavy feet struck her from every direction without ceasing. Before one bird finished attacking, another immediately rushed forward to take its place. The scene descended into utter chaos. At that very moment of unimaginable horror, a gentle yet crystal clear voice echoed through the air. It was Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. Calmly and compassionately, the Bodhisattva said, "Creatures, stop for a moment and listen to what I have to say. First, you are free to avenge yourselves. However, each of you must take turns. After one has taken revenge, step aside so that the next may do the same. Only in this way can justice be fair. There are 1,011 of you. If only a few continue attacking while the others never have their opportunity, disputes will arise endlessly. Who could possibly settle such complaints? Once your vengeance is complete, each of you will be reborn according to your own karma. Those whose animal karma remains will continue as animals. Those whose karma has been exhausted will be reborn as human beings. That is the first choice. The second choice is this. If you choose not to seek revenge and instead allow me to save her life, she will chant sutras to transfer merit to all of you so that every one of you may be reborn as human beings. In the future, she herself will become your teacher and guide you in practicing the Dharma. You may choose whichever path you wish. The law of justice forces no one. To many ordinary people, the Bodhisattva's words might seem surprising. The Bodhisattva is the embodiment of compassion. Why, then, did the Bodhisattva not simply stop the chickens and ducks from attacking Musbar? Why did the Bodhisattva even arrange for them to take turns more fairly? The answer lies in the profound wisdom of an enlightened being. A Bodhisattva understands that every grievance has its origin, and every debt has its rightful creditor. To prevent the animals from seeking justice would itself be unjust. All beings are equal. One cannot protect one being merely because of personal sympathy while ignoring the suffering of another. Compassion must embrace both sides equally. Moreover, the universal law of cause and effect must be respected. Today one being kills another. Tomorrow the victim seeks revenge. This is the impartial operation of karma. Though cruel and capable of perpetuating endless cycles of retaliation, it remains a universal law. No outsider, regardless of how great their spiritual power, can simply erase another being's karma or prevent karmic consequences from unfolding. The only true way to end the cycle is to help those involved willingly let go of hatred themselves. Something remarkable then happened. After hearing Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva's words, the countless chickens and ducks fell silent. For a brief moment, they reflected. Then, one after another, they gradually withdrew, leaving an open space around the battered and barely conscious Musbar. The Bodhisattva gently said, "Go ahead. Take your revenge slowly." The flock replied together.
Now we want her to return to life so she can chant sutras for us. We no longer wish to remain trapped in animal bodies. Life as animals is too full of suffering.
Although nothing prevented them from continuing their revenge, they voluntarily abandoned it. The Bodhisattva's few simple words had awakened their hearts. Those words contained profound compassion and immeasurable wisdom. They favored neither side. They violated neither justice nor the law of karma. Instead, they offered a solution through which everyone could ultimately benefit, resolving the conflict at its very root. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva then instructed one of the divine beings to sprinkle a mysterious liquid over Musbar. Instantly, her body was restored. Looking around, she realized she had escaped the terrifying massacre. Filled with deep remorse for the countless lives she had taken and overwhelmed with gratitude for having been saved, she crawled forward and repeatedly prostrated herself before Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva kindly said, "Because you awakened and sincerely cultivated the Dharma, upholding and reciting the Buddhist scriptures for the past 6 years, and because these animals united to bring the grievance before this court and requested vengeance only once, you have been given this opportunity. Otherwise, in your future lives you would have had to be reborn as an animal 1011 times, repaying one life for each life you had taken. How many lifetimes would pass before you could become human again and continue your spiritual cultivation?" Living beings are deluded. They do not understand the law of cause and effect. They imagine that death is the end of everything. Believing that animals exist merely to nourish humans, they kill without hesitation. When karmic consequences finally arrive, they cry out to heaven and earth. But by then, who can save them? Do you know who these animals truly are? Musbar respectfully replied, "Revered Bodhisattva, I only know they are animals." The Bodhisattva answered, "They were your grandparents, your parents, your relatives, and your loved ones throughout countless past lifetimes. Because they, too, once killed living beings, they were reborn as animals. You failed to recognize them and therefore slaughtered them without mercy. Today, those very grandparents and parents from your former lives have brought charges against you to seek justice. Such is the endless cycle of borrowing and repaying throughout the world. The beings of Jambudvipa delight in killing animals so that their parents, spouses, and children may eat nourishing food, or they catch fish and crabs to provide for their families. Thinking they are acting out of love, they are actually harming themselves. In doing so, they also harm their parents and relatives, causing all to share in the resulting karma. Therefore, you must chant sutras to help these beings be reborn as human beings. Teach them the Dharma, encourage them to recite the Buddha's name, lead him to take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha." Musbar respectfully asked, "Revered Bodhisattva, which sutra should I chant so they may be reborn as human beings?" The Bodhisattva replied, "Recite the Great Compassion Mantra and the 10 short mantras a total of 1011 times. One complete recitation counts as one repetition." Upon hearing this, Musbar wasted no time. She immediately stood with her palms joined respectfully and began chanting the Great Compassion Mantra and the 10 short mantras with complete sincerity. However, 1011 recitations required an enormous amount of time. Seeing this, the surrounding deities and underworld officials gathered together and joined her in chanting, helping to transfer merit to the flock of chickens and ducks more quickly. Before long, enough merit had been accumulated for all of them to be reborn as human beings. One by one, they walked toward the nearby Uni River. Several divine beings drew water from one of the river's white-colored streams and gave it to them to drink. As soon as each animal drank 3 cups, its feathers fell away, wings disappeared, human arms and legs emerged, and it was transformed into a human being once again. Afterward, Musbar delivered a Dharma talk to them. She encouraged them to cherish the rare opportunity of human rebirth, to cultivate diligently, to recite the Buddha's name, and to take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. When everything had been completed, several divine beings produced a magical gourd. Using its supernatural power, they reduced the newly reborn humans to a tiny size, gathered them into the gourd, and carried them back to the human world to be reborn. After they had departed, Musbar returned before the 2 bodhisattvas. They said to her, "You committed sins as vast as the heavens. Yet you dared to vow that all of your karmic retribution should be repaid within a single lifetime. Can you truly endure it?" She respectfully answered, "Yes, revered ones. I can." They replied, "Then go before King Qinguang of the first court and receive your judgment." The hall of judgment was not far away. King Qinguang was one of the 10 kings of hell who governed the underworld. Contrary to what many people believed, there was not merely one king of hell. The title referred collectively to 10 rulers, each responsible for different duties. King Qinguang of the first court presided over judgment and sentencing. Assisting him was the chief judge, who examined the book of life and death, ensuring that no good deed or evil act escaped the court's scrutiny. When Musbar arrived before the hall of judgment, she saw King Qinguang seated majestically upon his golden throne. His expression was solemn. His piercing eyes seemed to proclaim, "Nothing escapes my sight." On both sides stood fierce underworld officers. Their terrifying faces remained expressionless. Each held weapons ready, awaiting only the king's command. Fear overwhelmed Musbar. She immediately knelt before the throne, trembling. Her heart was filled with uncertainty. She had no idea what sentence awaited her. She could only bow her head and wait. King Qinguang spoke in a voice that shook the entire hall.
"Your crimes are extremely grave. Since you yourself have vowed to repay all of your karma within this lifetime, confess everything."
Musbar replied, "Your Majesty, I have committed the sin of killing countless living beings. I have committed theft through dishonest business dealings. I have committed sexual misconduct by marrying 7 husbands throughout my life. I have lied more than almost anyone else. I have also consumed alcohol." As she confessed each offense, the chief judge carefully verified every word against the records in the book of life and death. When she paused, King Qinguang thundered,
"Why have you not confessed your crime of trading illegal goods on the black market? You bought cheaply and sold at exorbitant prices, making it impossible for the poor to afford necessities. Such greed is no different from robbery. Your heart was as venomous as a serpent. You cared only about filling your own pockets without compassion for others."
Musbar immediately bowed. "Your Majesty, I accept my guilt." The king remained silent for a moment before pronouncing his judgment.
"Your sin of killing living beings is extremely heavy. According to the law of karma, each life should be repaid with 1 life. However, today you descended here. Those animals have already taken their revenge, and you have transferred merit to them. That particular karmic debt has therefore been settled. Nevertheless, residual karma still remains. If in the future you diligently cultivate the Dharma and guide those beings toward liberation, your karmic enmity with them will finally come to an end. But should you abandon your practice, you must once again repay every remaining life."
The king continued,
"Because of your filial devotion, your sins of greed and illegal trading have been reduced. Because you recite the Buddha's name every day, your karma from lying has also been lessened. As for your sexual misconduct, although it existed, it will not be counted as a separate offense, because it was itself the karmic consequence of causes created in previous lives. Now listen carefully while I recount one of your former lives. For 6 consecutive lifetimes you took refuge in the 3 jewels and practiced Buddhism. Yet in your most recent previous life, you left home to become a monk. From the age of 8 until 42, you practiced diligently. Your moral discipline was pure. You guided many beings. Eventually you became an abbot, serving as the head monk of an ancestral temple in the PT area of CL. Because of the merit accumulated over the previous 5 lifetimes, you possessed exceptional intelligence. You mastered the sutras, the Vinaya, and the Abhidharma. Ordinary people revered you. Monks and nuns deeply respected you.
The king's voice became sterner.
But because of your learning, you became arrogant. You imagined yourself equal to the Buddha. Pride filled your heart. You became careless. You no longer guarded your mind. Your thoughts wandered toward worldly pleasures. Your observance of the precepts weakened. Your spiritual determination declined. Ordinary desires arose once more. You became attached to physical beauty. You craved wealth. Finally, you broke your monastic vows and secretly engaged in sexual relations with a 20-year-old woman who lived near the temple. You stole temple funds to support her. You used property belonging to the 3 jewels to purchase her affection. You continued this conduct until the age of 70. After your death, you were confined in the 9th hell for 28 years to repay the karma created between the ages of 42 and 70.
King Qinguang continued.
Because of those actions, the 7 husbands you had in this present lifetime were actually 7 of your closest disciples from that previous life, returning to collect the karmic debts between you. In your former life, they faithfully served and provided you with every delicacy and luxury. According to the law of karma, in this lifetime you should have been forced into prostitution to repay your debts to countless people. Fortunately, when you were 17 years old, you awakened and took refuge in the 3 jewels under Venerable Thn. He taught you to recite the Buddha's name and chant the Great Compassion Mantra. Because of that practice, you escaped the karma of becoming a prostitute. Instead, you have had to endure a life of poverty, working tirelessly in business to repay those karmic debts.
Every word spoken by King Qinguang struck Musbar like the blow of a great hammer. This was the official proclamation of the immutable law of cause and effect. Only then did she finally understand the complexity of her own past. She realized that she had not only begun practicing Buddhism in this lifetime. Over many previous lives she had also followed the Buddha's path. At one time she had even become a highly respected abbot, honored and revered by countless people. Yet such is the unpredictable nature of the human mind. Even after decades of diligent monastic practice, even after thoroughly mastering the Buddhist teachings, even after strictly observing the monastic precepts, she had still failed to overcome the desires hidden within her own heart. How shallow the understanding of many people in the world can be. Some imagine that simply shaving one's head and putting on a monk's robe is enough to leave worldly attachments behind. But it is not so simple. Worldly defilements do not reside in one's hair. They reside deep within the mind. Greed, hatred, delusion, these lie hidden within consciousness itself. They are not contained in one's clothing. How mistaken it is to believe that merely wearing a monastic robe automatically purifies the heart. Even decades of exemplary spiritual practice do not guarantee complete safety.